Well, howdy there, folks. Welcome into this video here today. 4 different things I need to react to and kind of give my opinions and perspectives on here, okay? Yesterday, news came out. PayPal's shaking up some leadership, obviously. Alex Chriss now has obviously fully taken over the reins over the last 2 months, and he's making some other big changes. So I want to go through what those changes are and what I think about those here, okay? Then we're going to react to this video here about the holiday shopping season and how that's going to end up shaping up. Then we're going to react to this little 2-minute clip here. She ready to be a proud partner and friend of the United States. I thought this was interesting. I want to share my opinion and perspective on what's actually going on here and kind of my opinions on that, okay? And then the last one up here we'll get into is this weird situation in regards to Warren Buffett where supposedly he was making some sorts of trades on his own personal account before he was making those trades on Berkshire's account, supposedly. So I thought we'd listen to Charlie Munger actually speak about this subject. This is a new interview that just came out 4 hours ago, and I thought this would be an interesting one to get into in this one here today. Appreciate y'all joining me as always. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you for being subscribed to the channel. Also, pin comment down there if you want to follow me on Instagram and say hello to me, send me a DM. If you enjoy the channel, then you can go ahead and do that. There'll be pinned comment down there. And I post a decent amount of news and things like that on my Instagram stories as well. All right, guys, so PayPal, right off the bat. PayPal today announced senior leadership changes that underscore the company's commitment to building a high-performing organization serving its customers and driving profitable growth. I love it. Just keep talking about profitable growth at PayPal. I love it, man. I love it. Isabel Cruz will join PayPal as the Chief People Officer effective November 27th. So let's call it about a week and a half from now. Michelle Gill is joining PayPal as Executive Vice President and General Manager of a newly formed Small Business and Financial Services Group. Ooh, okay. Effective today. Diego Scotti will join PayPal as an Executive Vice President, General Manager of newly formed Consumer Group and Global Marketing and Communications Organizations effective December 4th. So right off the bat here, you see Mr. Alex Chriss, who came in from Intuit. He was super important at Intuit in kind of the growth of Intuit the last decade or two. And he's coming in right off the bat, and he's basically says we need to form some new business groups to focus on certain segments that maybe are weak spots for PayPal right now, okay? And so I thought this is pretty meaningful in the business world. I'll say that. We are redesigning PayPal with our customers at the center and creating an environment that unleashes our teams to move with speed and build the best possible products and experiences to meet their needs, Alex Chriss, President and CEO of PayPal. I'm excited to welcome world-class leaders to PayPal, and we believe our mission is to have the expertise to help scale our global business. Positioning for its next phase of growth, Cruz will be accountable for attracting, retaining, and developing talent at PayPal, as well as the company's global real estate strategy. Cruz joins PayPal from Walmart, where she was most recently Senior Vice President and People Leader for Walmart's global technology services and corporate teams, leading talent strategies and people initiatives supporting more than 30,000 associates globally. Cruz previously led the people function at Walmart's U.S. e-commerce business. She joined Walmart following a 20-year career with General Electric that included roles in GE Capital, GE Power, NBC Universal. Cruz succeeds this gentleman. Now, to establish clear accountability in how PayPal serves end-to-end customer needs, the company is establishing 3 new business units aligned with the customers it serves: consumer, small business, and large enterprise. That gives you a lot of focus on, what PayPal is really up to here, right? By organizing our teams into defined business units, we focus on what's most important to our customers, leveraging the power of our data and platform to deliver with increased speed, package our innovation in a way that differentiates us in the market. This will position us to drive meaningful growth for the company, said Chriss. Scotti will be accountable for bringing PayPal's breadth of consumer products and services together in a cohesive, integrated, and seamless customer experience and value proposition. He will also lead PayPal's global marketing and communications to drive enhanced brand awareness and use for PayPal and Venmo. Scotti joins PayPal from Verizon, where he was most recently Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer. Under Scotty's leadership, when I just think about Verizon, I think about all the ads on TV all the time. Verizon brought together all areas touching the consumer, the brand, and Verizon's reputation, including customer acquisition and loyalty data and insights, communication, social responsibility, and the Verizon Foundation. Scotty previously served as a chief marketing officer of J.Crew prior to that. And, he's at Vogue and American Express before there. Gil will be accountable for bringing together the ecosystem of products and services that will help small business owners run and grow their business in the unified offering. Now, this is a super important segment, super important for PayPal, that they get small business right in a massive, massive way. And if you really think about PayPal and Venmo, you really think about them and how successful they are really on the front of like a consumer, like me or whoever, like using PayPal or using Venmo as a service, right? But the small business unit is so dang important for the Braintree side and the PayPal side, and making sure they have good relationships. I think one of the reasons the board of directors brought in Alex Chris from Intuit, guess where Intuit's sweet spot is? Small business. Small business is the sweet spot of Intuit. Like that's what they dominate. Like if you have a small business, there's a high probability you might use QuickBooks for your business, okay? And TurboTax and those other various products that they have over there. So I thought this is very important that they're going to be very focused on small business also. Gil was in the past, many years ago, a lot of small businesses had negative things to say maybe about PayPal. Gil was previously Senior Vice President, QuickBooks Money Platform at Intuit. Prior to Intuit, Gil was a CFO and Executive Vice President of Consumer Lending and Capital Markets at SoFi. She is credited with bringing together multiple lending businesses under a single umbrella, streamlining engineering and product teams. So he's brought in this individual essentially from Intuit, right? But previously they were at SoFi. So that's pretty powerful. And before that, they were at Goldman Sachs for 14 years. Okay, that's impressive. That's an impressive resume. When you were, a very important person in Intuit, you were also a key person at SoFi, and you worked for Goldman Sachs for 14 years. Those are high-performing cultures, especially Goldman Sachs, so that's very, very impressive. As part of these leadership changes, PayPal veteran Frank Keller has been appointed Senior Vice President and General Manager of PayPal's large enterprise and merchant platform group, effective immediately. Both Keller and Patel, the current Senior Vice President and General Counsel, will join the company's senior leadership team reporting to Chris. Okay, so, Chris has got the team. I don't think he's going to have to make any other big moves now at this point in time. It looks like he's got everything kind of lined up that he needs to have lined up for 2024, and now it's just about execution. So as a PayPal shareholder, somebody that's been starting to buy the stock very heavily over the last several months and plans to continue to over the next several months, pleased with these changes, and I think they're going to be very positive overall. So Good. Okay. All right, guys. Next up here, let's react to this one about the holiday season. Then we'll get into Xi in the U.S. and what's actually going on there. And then we'll get into the Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett drama there.
Davidson analyst Michael Baker is a target of 181 and a buy on the stock. Michael, it's great to have you back. To the degree that they mentioned deflation and managing that in the coming months, according to the call, is that a liability for margin if, in fact, inflation was positive for margin in the past?
Well, I think in a way it could help because if we do see deflation, particularly in some of the food areas, couldn't that lead to some crowding in rather than crowding out of some discretionary purchases? A year ago, you had so much inflation in the basic categories that a lot of the discretionary items were crowded out. The reverse could happen. In other words, you could invite in more general merchandise sales, which would be positive for margins. So inflation, yeah, that can hurt the dollars, but units...
You see that move in Walmart there, right? That's the difference between Target and Walmart in a massive, massive way, right? Target was up over 17 percentage points yesterday on their earnings. Walmart down about 7% here today, right? It's very simple. It's very simple. Walmart went into these earnings overvalued. You look at their forward P, they went in way overvalued. Target, on the other hand, went way undervalued. Walmart was a high-flying stock going in their earnings. Target was a beaten-down dog going into their earnings, right? And so as long as Target didn't come in through with a disaster, the stock was going to pop huge. And sure enough, it was up 17+% yesterday, right? Walmart, they would have had to come in with just such shocking numbers for that stock to go up that it's very hard to do that, right? It's a pretty simple game when you look at it from valuation. Valuation ends up mattering. And unless you come through with shocking numbers, same thing could happen to NVIDIA, by the way. NVIDIA has to come in with just crazy numbers when they report next week. which I'll be doing a Twitch live stream for that one. That's going to be a crazy live stream, but they're going to have to come in with a shocking beat. Again, if they don't, then their stock will actually falter because it's run so much.
It could get better, and in fact, again, those units could get better in the more discretionary areas.
Between Walmart and Target, who would be better poised to take advantage of that scenario?
Well, Walmart, we think. Walmart is still taking market share. Target could see a little bit of an inflection point, I suppose, and be less negative in that environment. But we still think Walmart is taking share relative to Target. Now, of course, Target stock worked better yesterday. A lot of that is due to valuation and expectations. Yep. But we still think Walmart is the share, gainer in this environment.
What are we learning about consumer discretionary trends? Because it still feels like, at first we were wondering if they bottomed, if we were seeing some goods. I think the Target CFO did talk about better trends in apparel and home, for instance. But when can we actually factor in a recovery? Or is that just too far with the trends worsening on the macro level?
Yeah, you said it earlier. I think you said it right. We are seeing a slowdown, and we're seeing that in a lot of the data points. To me, it feels a little bit like a soft landing. Things are slowing a little bit. Discretionary, the basic goods are still, doing better than discretionary, although I think discretionary could catch up a little bit. But again, we are seeing a slowdown. Now, November was a little bit better. The end of October worse. In a lot of ways, I think that's weather. Simple as that. It was really warm towards the end of October. November has gotten cooler, and people are buying some colder weather apparel. But I think this generally does, all the data points we're seeing, including the retail sales yesterday, does point to slowing sales. We think it'll be a modest holiday season. Again, that's consistent with the soft landing.
Yeah, I don't know how much is really weather related. They love to blame it on weather, or weather's good, and so that's creating sales. What is a factor I think a lot of people are forgetting, that a lot of these Wall Street analysts are forgetting, okay? I'll tell you the factor. It is the fact that in a lot of markets, gas prices have dropped recently over the past several weeks, right? And so, that's just a tax on the consumer, and the consumer's either taxed more or taxed less based upon what they have to fill up each week, right? So I think that's something meaningful there. Obviously, you have real wages catching up. I think that's just something that continues to help, and that could help, obviously, in 2024 in quite a substantial way as well. So, those are some things to factor in my personal opinion, that, it's way beyond just weather. All right, guys, let's get into China, what's actually going on here with the United States, and then we'll get into the Buffett stuff.
We are in an era of challenges and changes. It is also an era of hope. The world needs China and the United States to work together for a better future. We, the largest developing country, that is China, and the largest developed country, the United States, we must get along with each other. In a world of changes and chaos, it is ever more important for us to have the mind, assume the vision, shoulder the responsibility, and play the role that comes along with our status as major countries. China is ready to be a partner and friend of the United States.
Tell me they don't have YouTube over there in China. Oh man, there's a lot of Chinese that are getting around the system and using YouTube over there, I can tell you that much. 93,000 views in 13 hours on Bloomberg? That never happens. Never happens. Yeah.
The fundamental principles that we follow in handling China-US relations are mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation. Just as mutual respect is a basic code of behavior for individuals, it is fundamental for China-US relations. Peaceful coexistence is a basic norm for international relations. And is even more of a baseline that China and the United States should hold on to as two major countries. It is wrong to view China, which is committed to peaceful development, as a threat, and thus play a zero-sum game against it. China never bets against the United States and never interferes in its internal affairs. China has no intention to challenge the United States or to unseat it Instead, we will be glad to see a confident, open, ever-growing, and prosperous United States. Likewise, the United States should not bet against China or interfere in China's internal affairs. It should instead welcome a peaceful, stable, and prosperous China.
So that was very welcoming, very, very welcoming in terms of the commentary there. Very welcoming commentary from Xi there, and it definitely sounds like both sides are going to get along, and honestly, both sides do need each other for several different ways. There are different ways, China needs the United States for several different reasons that are very different than why the United States needs China, right? China can buy a lot of our debt. They can help out in the bond market in a major way. And obviously, they're a massive market for the U.S. companies to sell into. On the flip side, China has helped out in a massive way by learning from U.S. companies, kind of the principles they have, the marketing. U.S. companies are always the best of the best at everything, whether it be, just about anything, right? And they obviously also need the U.S. for the manufacturing side as well, right? To have companies in China, basically, that are American companies producing a lot of physical products, think about iPhones and all that, right? And there is a threat that's been cropping up for China over the past, I think it's become much more serious over the past couple of years, and that is India, right? And obviously, China, if you're wondering what's kind of going on here, in my opinion, the Chinese economy is not in a strong place right now. They came off of, they had a lot of lockdowns for like 3 years over there, and I think China sees a lot of manufacturing going to India, even Apple's moving a lot of production over to India now at this point in time. And I think China realizes we need to be a lot more friendly and a lot more open so we can keep the doors open, because we need these guys, and without them, our economy is not going to prosper nearly as much, right? And China's trying to have a massive amount of people move into the middle class over this next decade or two. And to have that happen, they're going to need the United States assistance in that. So that's what I believe is going on there. And overall, I think it's good. I mean, I really don't want to see the China-Taiwan situation happen. That would be a mess. And so we already got enough crap going on out there. So I'd rather have China and the United States get along here and figure things out. Alrighty, next up here, let's get into this one, this Warren Buffett drama. This is pretty wild.
There was a recent report in ProPublica, some exclusive commentary from Berkshire Hathaway on news concerning the company. There was a recent report in ProPublica that suggested that Berkshire Hathaway chairman and CEO Warren Buffett traded stocks in his own portfolio before Berkshire's trades in the same stocks were made public on 3 occasions over a period of almost 2 decades. I haven't confirmed those events or discussed the details of that reporting with Buffett, but earlier this week I sat down with Berkshire Vice Chairman Charlie Munger at his home in Los Angeles for a project that I'm working on ahead of his 100th birthday, which is coming up on January 1st. Munger is the elder statesman and sort of a moral authority at Berkshire.
Munger's about to turn 100? Holy smokers, that's no jokers.
I asked him what he thought of that story.
I don't think there's the slightest chance that Warren Buffett is doing something that's deeply evil to make money for himself. He cares more about what happens to Berkshire than he cares about what happens to his own money. He's giving all his own money away. He doesn't even have it anymore. And showing how little he thinks of it. To give away the last $100 million he has on earth. And having done that, they say, with a dirty son of a you're taking advantage of Berkshire to make money. It's not a plausible argument. It's one more ridiculous thing that's said about Berkshire.
ProPublica itself noted that the trades were very small relative to Buffett's net worth. ProPublica has said that his portfolio trades from the year 2000 to 2019 totaled $466 million. That is less than 0.5% of the more than $100 billion that Buffett is worth now. And of course, more than 99% of that is in shares of Berkshire itself. So Charlie's point was it would be silly to argue that you were putting yourself at an advantage over Berkshire shareholders when all of your money is in Berkshire shares, too.
That's a damn good point. That's a damn good point. I can't argue against that. I mean, that's just a phenomenal point. That's just a freaking phenomenal point, right? At the end of the day, you really think about Buffett, right? He's in his 90s now. Obviously, Munger is 100. You really think about those guys, like, the amount of money really doesn't matter at this point anymore. It's about legacy, right? And so does Warren Buffett care about his own personal account of a few $100 million, or, Berkshire Hathaway where he has maybe $100 billion or whatever, right? Obviously, if you're thinking about legacy, Berkshire is what's going to last longer. The money doesn't last as long. Berkshire is going to way outlive, obviously, Warren Buffett, probably going to outlive Buffett's kids, probably going to outlive Buffett's grandkids, Berkshire Hathaway, right? That's real legacy, right? They say a man, what is it? What's the saying? A man dies twice. Once when they physically die, the other when no one speaks to their name anymore, right? So,
When the news came out about just the size and scale of it, meaning that it was tiny on a very relative basis. And I don't think that anyone thinks that there was any kind of insider trading. I've always wanted, look, my hope is that there's a very plausible and reasonable explanation for it. I think that the issue was much more around what he said publicly, around the idea that he doesn't trade in the stocks that Berkshire owns.
Right.
And clearly and empirically, it appears at least that he did. And so trying to understand that, and then how does that relate not to, there were other individuals at Berkshire, including David Sokol, who was involved in Lubrizol. He had owned shares in a company before they ultimately acquired it. I think there's a difference, and you remember,
I haven't spoken with Buffett about it.
David Sokol wasn't accused of anything either in terms of.
He brought a deal to the company. If you go back to, and I haven't looked at the Sokol details in a long time, but David Sokol brought a deal to the company, didn't disclose to, I guess, Buffett and whoever else he was bringing that deal to, that he had already bought stake in the company.
Bought shares in the company.
And then Berkshire bought it at a higher price, and that was it.
I imagine that Warren, I want to believe that Warren trades in his own account the way Joe plays DraftKings just for fun.
I don't know if it's just for fun as much as it's funding. Remember, he's got a salary of $100,000 that he's getting.
Right, it's the same amount of I get very interested in $5 bets, and it's not because of the $5. I just want to be able to be. I think I'm going to be able to figure things out.
I can even try to rationalize without knowing without actually knowing what happened. That there were times where possibly he was selling shares that he owned ahead of Berkshire buying the shares because he didn't want to own them at the same time. That's one thought. And then there's another thought that maybe he was selling shares because if Berkshire was out of the stock, he thought that he should be out of it. I mean, I could come up with 100 reasons why maybe this is all good. The only thing is that because he was so emphatic publicly to his shareholders that he wasn't in these stocks, right? He was not going to be trading any of these stocks. Look, my hope is, as I said, that there's a very reasonable explanation for this, that there was a mistake, or that he had bought these shares. I have a view, this is my own supposition, that maybe he bought these shares 1,000,000 years ago and then decided that he wanted to get out of it for whatever reason, and the timing of it was just not great.
My guess is some of it was probably for charity when he gives some of these things away for charitable things, but
irrespective,
he's going to have to answer it.
But irrespective of whatever it is, the problem or the conundrum, it's only because he has a policy for the company.
Right.
I assume for that policy for the company also applies to every other employee at the company. And then the question is, does it apply to him? We talked about David Sokol. And again, I'm not saying this was a David Sokol situation, but David Sokol didn't disclose it to the board or to Warren. Yeah. Warren clearly disclosed it to himself because he knows.
Right.
Did he disclose to the board? By the way, he wrote a letter. By the way, people have done this, where situations that people have owned shares from 1,000,000 years ago and they need to get rid of them somehow, and they write a letter to somebody saying, I'm on X date, I'm going to go do this. Maybe there's some I have no idea. All I'm saying is that hopefully there's a very reasonable explanation for it.
At some point, he does not speak publicly very often, but he will definitely be asked.
But it's so de minimis. It's so. I mean, we can't even. We need a word for how de minimis it is. It's exponentially, logarithmically. It's a pittance. And
I mean, at the end of the day, the bottom line is, no one's had anything on Buffett for quite some time. Last time there was any real Buffett drama was back in the 90s. Yeah, that would have been back in the 90s. Yeah, that would have been back in the 90s. He had some investment banking drama that was going on. There's been no drama around Buffett. He's a huge, obviously famous person and one of the richest people in the world. And so, people are trying to find something, right? And so it's like, it's completely irrelevant. Like, dude lives in the same house he's lived in since like the 50s or the 60s. He never buys crap. His ex-wife, who wanted a house in Newport Beach, he even sold that some years back. Like, the guy, it's nothing materialistic. Like, you see the cars the guy drives. So, yeah, and it's such a small amount of net worth. Like, anything that would put Berkshire at any sort of disadvantage would be idiotic of Buffett. That guy's way too smart to do anything like that, right? His whole net worth is in basically Berkshire Hathaway shares. So never mind, his legacy is in Berkshire Hathaway as well. So yeah, people are stretching. They'll look to try to find anything. That's the bottom line with that. Like, people love to tear other people down. It's you know, a certain segment of the population will try to find something on somebody. Oh, they did this. You know, it makes them feel better, I guess. You know, they like to have some sort of dirt on everybody. That's the bottom line with that. No one nowadays, they want no one clean. No one clean. They want, even if they can't find dirt on that person, they'll make up dirt. That's the bottom line. That's the day and age we're living in nowadays, folks. So that is what that is. But do I change my opinion on Buffett in any way because of this? Absolutely not. It just more reinforces the fact that, you know, people want to try to tear down everybody nowadays. And if they can't find something, they'll make it up. So appreciate y'all joining me as always. Thanks so much for being here, folks. Thank you for being subscribed to the channel. Appreciate each and every one of you. If you ever want to say hello to me, you enjoy the channel, say hello on IG. That will be pinned comment down there. You can follow me on there. Much love and have a great day.